Hey everyone, Lio Convoy here. Hope your day is going well. Mine's just fine. I wanted to take another shot at a time-lapse art video. I recently got back into drawing again and been really enjoying it. This piece is called The Nature of Evil, and it was ultimately stemmed from a few 80s cartoon Facebook groups talking about how villains aren't as good as they used to be back in my day. Well, I took that as a bit of a challenge considering that I watched the cartoons that they're referring to, and I find that statement fairly incorrect. While it's true that they're not motivated in the same way as villains from the 80s, that doesn't mean that they don't drive the story forward or challenge the hero like they're supposed to. For this piece, I chose three modern villains: Tavi from Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, and the Beast from Over the Garden Wall. I find these three to encompass a wide range of evil characteristics that make them a more palpable threat than some of the other modern villains. As an 80s counterpart, I chose Mumm-Ra. And not just because I'm a Thundercats fan. I chose him because I believe he's everything that makes a challenging villain. And him lacking any sort of sympathetic backstory is also a reason. His only real backstory is that he was an Egyptian Sim priest named Wahanka that sold his soul to the ancient spirits of evil for power. Power that eventually led him to ruling the entire world with terror and destruction. That's some subtext that a lot of even Thundercats fans sometimes miss. Mumm-Ra already won centuries ago. It was the arrival of the Thundercats that broke his absolute dominion on Third Earth. Until then, any hero or villain that challenged him was likely banished or killed. You see that with characters like Wiz-Ra and the other wizards from the Astral Prison when it comes to good characters, and of course you have Zax from the Zax Factor when it came to villains that challenged him. In terms of evil, Mumm-Ra is the ultimate evil next to his bosses in the universe of Thundercats. He's cruel, deceptive, treacherous, and unrepentant. He reeks of the dark, decrepit death. His only friends in this series are his dog Mammut and the literal spirit of fear, Mongor. He is not the type of evil character you take pity on because of some tragic past. He's evil and he enjoys it. And while I don't believe modern villains are all terrible, I feel there's too much of an attempt to humanize all of them when you don't really need to. Give them a motivation, sure, but you don't have to give them a tragic childhood to justify their actions. Now, since I've waxed on about Mumm-Ra, let's move on to the rest. First off, we have Tavi. Odd name, I know, but who am I to judge? He's from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. He's more characterized as the Lex Luthor type of evil. He's calculating, devious, and plays the long game. He's immortal, don't know how old he is, and he apparently has some ties to Star's family, but nothing's been really revealed yet. He's been able to manipulate every character in the show that he's encountered so far, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with him. I like the fact that bringing him in gave Star and company a legitimate threat to fight against. Not that I don't like Luda, but he was more of a comedical villain than threatening. I look forward to seeing how Tavi plays out next season this coming summer, and hopefully it's not completely overshadowed by the new DuckTales cartoon that's coming out. Next up, we have Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. Bill is sort of the eldritch horror type of evil, much like, say, Cthulhu. He's a reality warping dream demon whose ultimate plan is to remake the universe in his own image, just because he thinks it'll be fun. Like Tavi, he's manipulative, but where he differs is that Bill is unapologetically sadistic in any way you can imagine, some of which they even show on screen, and I'm still trying to figure out how they got away with it. Sure, he's funny, but that's to offset his cruelty, since Gravity Falls is still considered a kid's show, somehow. Also, I have to say, kudos to the staff for making an Illuminati symbol as a villain. Pretty good design choice. Even though he's got tiny little Mr. Peanut arms and legs. Finally, we have the Beast, the main antagonist from Over the Garden Wall. Like Bill, he's an eldritch horror, but unlike Bill or even Tavi, there's nothing about this character that's charming or likable. He's a demonic creature that forces lost souls to protect and power his lamp, which is the source of his power. It's often mentioned that among Cartoon Network's original animated series, he is the most evil being. Unlike other characters like, say, Aku from Samurai Jack or him from the Powerpuff Girls, he has no jokey personality or fun or mirth. He's all threat and all evil. His presence in the miniseries is constantly felt, even if you rarely see him. Constantly mentioned and fearfully whispered when discussed. The Beast is a horrifying creature that torments the inhabitants of his universe until his eventual defeat at the end of the series. I chose to go with his shadowy form for a couple of reasons. One of which is because it's simpler as opposed to the reveal of his real form. Another is that it makes him look more intimidating in my opinion. But seriously, look up his real form on Google. Have some nightmare fuel. Now, there were some other villains from modern cartoons I considered, such as Shredder from the new Ninja Turtles cartoon, or even the Lich from Adventure Time. But I find the new Shredder to be less threatening than the three already in this piece. He's more like a crazy mobster now than anything else in the new series, not counting the fact that he's Super Shredder now. And the Lich in Adventure Time is literally a baby now. While two of the characters in this piece are defeated or dead, they lasted the entirety of the series as a threat. Hence their inclusion. And of course, the reason why I didn't choose anybody from Steven Universe mostly comes down to the fact that all the villains so far are shown with no real motivation. We don't know much about them, and the ones he's ran into previously have either been rehabilitated or they're already defeated and don't add to the story currently. So for those of you who are wondering, why isn't Steven Universe included in this, there's your reason. So in these three, we have elements of manipulation, deception, maliciousness, sadism, and cruelty. All things shown in past villains as well, whether it be Megatron, Mumm-Ra, Skeletor, Venger, King Zarkon, or to a much lesser extent in the cartoon, Cobra Commander. There's something about the nature of evil that Superman said in the For Tomorrow storyline way back in 2004 that's always stuck with me. To be in the presence of evil is to both be utterly offended and absolutely afraid. It's an assault one never fully recovers from. And speaking abstractly, to see evil is to lose. I've seen evil. I battle against it. But it's a war I'll never win. Evil is self-serving, cruel, and despotic. It offers no kindness or forgiveness. It's a poison that rots anything it touches. And these characters presented in this piece, I believe, embody those characteristics in one way or another. While we may have other antagonists in other forms of fiction, they're not always evil characters. Some are misguided, some don't feel they have a choice in their actions. But I believe if we're going to have truly righteous characters in fiction, they need to be shown a gauntlet of villains, not just antagonists. For every character like Mr. Freeze or the Ice King, you need two characters like the Joker or a Green Goblin. For every Ludo and Emperor Pilaf, you need more like Darkseid or Ra's al Ghul. But that's just my opinion. What do you all think? Leave your thoughts in the comments and feel free to subscribe or donate to my Patreon. Links in the description. Take care.